Hello, I'm back with another video. This time I'm going to show you how to really set up and use config ng or next generation for the Atari FujiNet. In the previous video I had some issues with screen grab on the Mac. It sounded funny, and I didn't really go into the details of how you actually swap out and use the config ng on the FujiNet. I just showed you what it did. This video I'm taking a step back. I reset up things, should have good screen capture, and I'm going to show you really quickly how easy it is to set this up, grab it, and start using it on your FujiNet if you want. Now I am using Altera and a virtual Atari with FujiNet PC running on a Windows machine, actually running on the WSL, but the directions will be almost exactly the same for a real FujiNet. The only difference is where you actually put the new ATR that has the config ng. On a real FujiNet, you put it inside on the SD card because that's the space that you have. On this one, I'm going to put it just in a directory on my PC. But we'll go through. So we're booted, and here you can see the regular config for Atari that you're used to. You've got host lists, and I've got drive slots, and I've got something on there now. I'll eject that just so we're exactly the way we are and you would expect it. And you know, anyone who's used FujiNet for Atari will understand what this is. You have 8 different hosts that you can go into, and you have 8 different drive slots for the Atari. And I can go into any host and navigate to them and find an ATR that I want. I will go back and use weather. I can pick which drive it is on the Atari. The Atari only boots from drive 1, so it's going in there. And if I come back, I can see there it's mounted, and boot this Atari, and it's going to boot, and we'll have a weather program. So anyone that's used it is very familiar. So config ng is an alternative config program for the Atari only. It's written in assembly by Mark Fisher, who goes by Fenrock on the Discord. He's done it about almost a year now and spent a lot of time on it, and it's quite interesting and worth taking a look. And it's real easy to swap it in and use it without too much disruption because of the new 1.3 firmware release. There is a new option in the fnconfig.ini file that lets you easily point to a different load file, a different config file, which is what the FujiNet boots when it first starts. And I'm going to show you how easy that is. So there we go. There's our regular Atari. We're going to leave it behind while I go and grab it. So the first thing is you need to get the file. And to do that, we're going to jump over here and look at this web browser. And in it, I have, that is the FujiNet server there. That's web browser. I have a link over to my TNFS server, and I have a sample fnconfig file, which we'll take a look at a little bit later. I'll give you a quick preview. You can see right there, there's the alt config file. So first of all, we need to get the new ATR if you don't feel like building it yourself. To do that, I've made it available on my website at fujinetdealer.org. So you can go there inside the Atari directory, and in FujiNet lib is the ATR. I'm going to click on it to download it here to this machine. And now, when I jump over here, we need to copy it into the right place. So if I go to downloads, I should just see it. Okay, so I've copied it down from the web server. I need to move it to the right place. To do that on Windows, it's just easy enough to use the copy and paste commands. I'm going to go back into my FujiNet PC directory. This is where it differs between a real FujiNet, obviously, and the FujiNet PC. You'll just be copying it onto your SD card. You can do that directly from the real config. For my usage, I need to go in here into the build directory, and dist. And I'm going to put it on the SD card. That's where it expects the fake SD card. So I'm going to paste it in there. And there's the config ng ATR. So now that's done, but I still need to update the INI file, because if I restart the FujiNet now, it's still going to go back and boot the regular config. To do that, we'll jump over to an editor, and I will open the fn config file. So here you can see it. This is what the FujiNet uses when it boots up, and you can have one of these on your SD card, which it will try to read if it finds one on the SD card. If it doesn't find one on the SD card, then it goes inside of its internal SPIF RAM and loads that. So you want to create a new fn config INI file on your SD card, and you can do that by downloading a sample one from the website. I'll put a link to where you can get that, and copy and paste it and edit it with an editor. You can see right here I have not config enabled, but alt config file. It's right there, and it's just as simple as typing in the name of that, and that is config ng ATR. I will save it. And now that's done. And now when we see, if we go back to the Atari and reset it, it should boot. Okay, and now it is booting config ng and not the regular config, because I can see it's a blue screen and not the gray screen that we'd expect with compressed loader on FujiNet. And there it is. This is config ng, written by Fenrock, and does the same type of work that we need done with the regular config, but it does it in a cool, slightly different fashion with a little bit different screens, and it's very snappy since it uses assembly. So in it we have a host list, which we're used to. We can edit that host list, can put in a new host. I'll add mine, just like you'd expect. You can go into that host and traverse it just like you can on the other one. And we will go in and grab something. You can see right away it's got a slightly different font, slightly different look, slightly different kind of highlight there. I'll grab the browser, the Kontiki browser. That's fun to look at, and we looked at it last time too. Grabbing that, we can see that not only this load, but it actually has read the existing fnconfig.ini file that I had used with my previous config, right, and had weather already mounted as drive 1, and it respected that and loaded it right up. But I'm going to mount Kontiki on top of that. And if we jump back, we'll see I see the host, but I don't see where my drives are. I need to use the arrow keys left and right, because the config ng has different screens for that different info, so it can show you more in one screen. So hit the right arrow, and there are my drive slots. I can see right there. There's the browser that I just loaded. If I go to the right, there's a Wi-Fi screen. In this case, it doesn't show me any real information because I'm using FujiNet PC, which uses the host networking component. And as you can see here, it just has some dummy information. If it was a real FujiNet, I would see the IP address that the FujiNet has on my local network. And one more gives me info, and there is a little info screen. You can see Fenrock did this, and 9.2 is his version number. And I can tap left or right, and you can see it's quite responsive, quite quick. You can also copy files. Let's see. If I go in here, and I go into Atari, and I will copy a DOS disk. I find what I want. I hit copy, and now the kind of cursor or the highlight bar has turned purple, and you can see at the top I'm in the copy mode. So now I can pop back out and say go to the SD, and I hit C again, and there it is. It's copying it. Just copied it. So that's kind of cool. I'll get back out of that. Look, see if I got my browser, and we'll go ahead and same thing, hold down Option key, and you can see that it's off and booting. So config ng, yeah, it's pretty cool. It gives you a little bit different look when you're using the Atari. It's only available for the Atari right now, but who knows? Perhaps Mark will get inspired and pick up some assembly on some other platforms and port that over. Meanwhile, we've got the Contiki browser, and there's been some demos about that, but you can see that using FrogFind or FujiNet.online also has a FrogFind. You can jump and get some queries, and it'll basically load up other websites and strip out all of the nasty new stuff like JavaScript and make it readable by the Contiki browser. Okay, so there we go. That is config ng, and when I hit reset, we'll see that it's still there. One last thing we'll look at, I did this in the other video too, and it's too cool not to, is Yale. Yale is over here on FujiNet Online in the FujiNet apps directory. It's yet another image loader by Brad on the Discord. He's been active and designed this really cool system. It has a back-end and front-end component. And it basically is going to take a search query parameter and find images based on that search query, convert it into two different types of Atari graphics format, and then stream it down for me and show it to me on my Atari. It's a very cool thing to set up and have running in the background. We had it at VCF East in the classroom, and it was fun. Garnered a lot of attention by people looking at it and wondering what was going on. So when you run the Yale client on your Atari, you get Yale. And there's a little help menu. You can quit. You can clear the screen. Set the graphics mode. It has 8 and 9. I typically use 9. 8 only looks good if you have a real CRT because it gets the artifacting. On a non-CRT, it looks pretty funky. So I'll be using graphics 9. You can save your settings if you're doing this on a real Atari. Stream is the main stream command, and this thing actually does video. Hasn't been set up yet, but if we take the time to set up a video capture camera on a Linux host and run the backend service, it can capture about a frame of video a second and send it down, which would be cool. Let me switch it into graphics 9, and I will stream some Blade Runner. It's just that easy. Type in a term. It talks to the backend server, goes off to the backend, searches a whole bunch of websites for some interesting images, rips them down into format for the Atari, streams them down to me. You can see it doing it here. Now I have the SIO bumped up a little bit so you can see that it downloads it pretty fast. And you can do this on your real Atari too. And it will sit back there and just continue to stream images to you for as long as you want to keep that up. And some of them are very cool. A very cool program. That's Yale. You can run that today on any Atari. It's on the FujiNet Online TNFS server. So, last thing I'll do is, while this is running in the background, I'm going to jump over and show you that we can come back out and get rid of this if we want to move to the regular one. So, back here on the file, I'll get rid of the alt config file. I'm going to save this there, And now when I restart this Atari, it should go back. And there it goes to the regular config. So the alternate config file is a super easy way to play with config.ng and any other future config files that come out for different platforms. Right now it's working on the Atari just as easy as you saw me there. So have fun, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.